Welcome, and thank you for tuning in. In this video we will be looking at whether Max Verstappen will make good on the promise he made to Lando Norris when he was being interviewed by David Coulthard after the qualifying session at the previous Grand Prix in Singapore. To recall, during the 2025 Singapore GP qualifying, Max was doing a final hot lap in Q3 when he encountered his busy mate Lando, driving ahead of him. Norris was not exactly blocking, but he was cruising, driving slowly, not aggressively pushing, near the line, which meant that Verstappen experienced dirty air turbulence that reduces grip, affecting braking and cornering. An angry Max accused Lando of negatively impacting his time in breach of an unwritten rule. This was reminiscent of what he did post-race in Jeddah, after he was passed as pole-sitter when Lando's teammate Oscar pipped him into the first corner, and he went off the track to try and retain the lead. He was swiftly penalized for leaving the track to gain an advantage, and speaking after the race, he claimed that there was a rule that meant he could have done what he did. However, he was unable to cite the rule when asked. Ironically, it was also David Coulthard that argued on BBC the day after the Abu Dhabi robbery in 2021, that there was a rule that allowed Michael Masi to rig a race at his convenience. At the time, he did not cite the rule, which of course did not and does not exist.
The regulations and the sporting regulations are hugely complex as well, and you're absolutely right that the sequence of events of only allowing 5 cars to overtake Lewis before the safety car came in is not something that typically has happened before. But the FIA do have another rule which allows the race director to override that and make the decision he feels is correct.
So, you can see why in this instance, Max claimed that it was an unwritten rule, because an unwritten rule is a norm or custom which has no legal basis, a bit like acknowledging a net cord in tennis or a fluke pot in snooker. He and his people have a long history of citing non-existent rules to defend their illegality or mendacity, so citing unwritten rules might in their opinion be more expedient. This time around, Max claimed that Lando had breached an unwritten rule during qualifying in Singapore. In his opinion, other drivers were expected to leave him a clean gap of approximately 8 seconds ahead so that his hot qualifying laps aren't compromised. He felt Norris broke this unwritten rule by being too close. Because of that compromise with clean air, he felt he lost some braking ability, downforce, and therefore overshot a braking point. Consequently, he lost the chance of pole by a very small margin, thus ending up P2. After qualifying, Verstappen said it was noted and said the incident will be remembered. That's usually racing speak for, "I'm not letting this go." We have provided a video clip of the Parc Fermé interview for your attention, and just in case someone makes a claim, we have provided a copy of the transcript as well. So, you can see that on Parc Fermé, Max clearly made a promise to get back at Lando, but when he got to the media pit, he walked it back, claiming that he didn't want to make a big thing of it. Let us know in the comments whether you believe that he played down what he had said because he had been advised to do so, or he did it of his own volition, so that when he strikes back, he will be able to claim that it was not premeditated because he had forgotten all about Singapore.
Mistake towards the end of the lap, the final sector?
Yeah, that's what happens when there's a car in front of you just cruising 2 seconds in front. So that's noted, will be remembered as well.
Who was that? We didn't see that on screen.
Not Oscar.
To get pole here today, considering how you've been performing so far, or in the last few races and this weekend as well, was it the difference getting stuck behind Lando, or would it have been really close, do you think, in the end?
Well, besides that, I think we had good pace. I was up on my final lap. But yeah, of course, what happens then in the final sector is a bit unfortunate, but I also don't want to make it bigger than it is. There's no need to go into detail.
Of course, a compliant lamestream media were quick to gaslight his threats, with most of them framing his will-be-remembered phrasing as more psychological than seeking literal on-track revenge. They framed it as a warning or message to Norris, and perhaps to other drivers, not to repeat similar behavior. Others interpreted it as part of the mental games drivers play, e.g. staking a claim to the moral high ground, putting public pressure on rivals, shaping how future qualifying behavior might be judged by other drivers and teams. Now, why they should condone Max threatening Lando or any other driver over some unwritten rules that only exist in his head is beyond us, but it is what it is. Surprisingly, and maybe an indication of how the tide is changing, some analysts dared to point out that, while the incident was disappointing for Verstappen, it did not violate any formal regulations. Norris was not investigated by the FIA for impeding. So, that said and done, how did Lando and McLaren respond? Norris was dismissive as he brushed it all off with comments like, "They always complain. They complain about everything. That's Red Bull." Now, we don't know how him denouncing Max and Red Bull as perennial whingers will go down with Maxipads like at Koakenzopi 5919, but it is what it is. I mean, Max and Lando are known to be best friends off track, so he must know what he is talking about, right? When he was asked whether he knew Max was behind, he said, "I didn't even know, I was like 3 seconds ahead." Interestingly, McLaren made no public statement on the matter. Please let us know in the comments whether you believe the team deliberately or naively missed an opportunity to preemptively put Max and Red Bull under pressure by publicly drawing the steward's attention to the perceived threat. This would have meant that Max and Red Bull would be on the back foot and under pressure to avoid any incidents, rather than Lando and McLaren being the ones on the back foot should something happen. Lando, like McLaren, should know better than to dismiss threats from Max. They have lost the psychological battle so many times that one has to conclude that McLaren are not interested because they have won the constructors and Lando is too soft. Does this indicate that McLaren are more focused on creating controversies that the likes of Liberty Media believe will help sell the sport, than protecting their individual drivers? But hang on a minute. Doesn't the narrative of Max mounting a title challenge depend on him winning all the remaining races with Lando as a buffer between him and Oscar at the minimum? So, he would be flogging his barely alive horse by spicing up any competition between him and Lando. Well, we'll find out soon enough, because we all know that Max can't help being who he was bred to be. Forza Ferrari.